Anybody who has ever treated a patient in a nursing home has been there to hear that nurse say, she was fine 1 minute ago.
I was going to say, every paramedic, EMT, pre-hospital provider, they were fine just a few minutes ago, probably got up and applauded in that moment.
You are listening to EMS with your hosts, Erik Axene and Matt Ball.
Welcome to the EMS show.
Yes.
Matt Ball.
We're excited today. We're always excited, but today we're super excited. Before we get started, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Helps us out. And I think you guys are going to be really excited too when you find out who we got on the podcast today. We have the author of the movie Code 3.
Creator, really.
Yeah, exactly. The creator, the author, the brains, so to speak, behind the movie Code 3. Patrick Pianezza. Patrick, how are you? We're so happy to have you on here today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks. And just point of clarification, I am the creator, but I'm the co-writer. Chris Leone shares credit with the writing.
That's right. That's right.
Credit to him as well. Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. Short story. I was at EMS World, and I ran into some friends. I didn't know this at the time, Patrick's friends.
Yeah.
But you had told me a couple days earlier, hey, we got a response from our social media blast from the co-writer of Code 3, and we're all excited about it. Yeah. And I mentioned that to a group of guys I was talking to, and this guy named Chris Holden says, hold on a second, I think that's my roommate. And he called up Patrick, put him on FaceTime, and stuck his phone in my face. Do you remember that, Patrick? Of course you do.
Yeah, that's definitely world. Chris in a nutshell, yeah. We were coworkers, and, well, not coworkers, we worked for different counties, but we were roommates in college.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Nice.
So you're originally from Illinois.
I am. I'm from a small town, Illinois, called Sherman. Springfield was the big city, about 10 minutes away. But yeah, I grew up in Sherman, got my associate's degree in biology. I got my back then it was a certificate non-degree program in paramedic. I was a fireman at Sherman. That's where that and those two things come from. And then transferred to the University of South Carolina and did my bachelor's and my master's at USC, and then did my externship at Johns Hopkins. And because they were paying us like interns there, I was also on their critical care transport team, and eventually moved to California and have been doing healthcare administration, large projects for health systems for about the last 10 years, and then got to make a movie. So it's been a lot of fun.
Nice.
I'm going to back you up a little bit. I was reading and researching you, we both were, and one of the things you'd mentioned, one of the bios I read was how stories shaped your imagination growing up. Yeah. I was wondering if you could share a couple of those stories that were impactful to you.
I mean, not word for word, but my dad, both my parents have passed, but my dad used to always, when we were kids, he would just make up stories on the fly to the point where, as you start to develop these critical thinking skills, we would look at our mom and be like, that can't be real. And she would be like, well, let's think it through. But yeah, I mean, he would make up stories like just on the fly. Like he would hold a pen and it would say something like Batman, and then all of a sudden like he saw Batman on the ceiling of the bakery, and he thwarted crime. Like it was like just the perfect improv, the way that he would do that. Or if we were at an airport, stories about people watching, and it was hilarious. So that kind of stuff, and then you mix in some of the old timer stories from the village where my family's from in Italy. There's not a lot going on. It's a very small village, and so everybody's telling stories about like witches and things that happened like 20, 30 years ago, and it's just these old guys retelling stories. And I was always just the kid sitting on the stoop just kind of absorbing all of it. It was great. It was really entertaining.
That's cool.
That's cool. One thing, I know Code 3 is really what we want to talk about, but I have to mention one other thing I learned about you. Where I work within a hospital system, I was the patient experience expert. I would do some travel to help coach people up on patient experience. It sounds like you had that same
That was my job. Yeah, I was a patient experience expert for lots of large health systems. So the running joke is I would tell people like you, I'd be like, I'm the guy you don't like. I'm the one always telling you to be nicer, but would hopefully have some tools and tactics to help people along the way. But yeah, the analysis and the process improvement for things like HCAPs and ED caps and other experiential measures in healthcare was kind of what was my specialty. I still consult in that from time to time. I worked for a company called Studer Group that quite literally wrote the book on.
We worked with them too.
Patients.
Yeah. So our viewers can join us for the most boring podcast in history when we're going to elaborate more on patient experience. I'm just kidding.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about incisors and all the things. Yeah.
Well, I just recently made the transition from operations to admin, so I'm transitioning my mindset a little bit over to the admin thing. And one thing, I worked closely with admin in my last department, but one thing that I didn't really that I didn't put together was that not everybody in ops has worked in admin, but everybody in admin has been in ops. So everybody that's worked in administration, at least for a short period of time, has worked in operations at some level. And it is looking at life through a different lens, for sure. It's looking at things very much through a different lens.
And I was being a little sarcastic, but I actually really enjoyed that patient experience piece because I really do think it's important. But unfortunately, a lot of doctors hated
I'm sure.
me.
Don't tell me how to do my job.
Because the only people that were there were the ones that somebody told them they sucked. And so I had to go help
I'm here because you suck. When Eric walks in or Patrick walks in, we're here because you suck.
I'm here to fix you. That's really kind of... Well, and to your point, Eric, the thing that I would always tell people is like, I too have been having some fun, and I don't mean to dismiss my entire previous profession. There are meaningful clinical impacts to people who believe in the care that they're receiving. They're less likely to have reactions or less likely to bounce back to the ER. There's tons of, if nothing else, the really dumb medic in my brain goes, feel better, lower cortisol levels, we win. It's that simple. But oftentimes no one is ever saying that the clinician either did something wrong or is terrible. It's just like the communication mishaps there. And there's lots of strategies around like, how do we ensure that the patient receives the message that they need to hear the right way, the right time, just like any other drug, right route, right dose, right time, right everything. And I think my decade plus career as a clinician allowed me to have those conversations with a little bit more authority and authenticity than some of the consultants that are in the field. And so, yes, I do believe it. I'm not dismissing it. I do think that patient experience has a place and is necessary, especially in a world that's insanely confusing and confounding that is healthcare. And I would tell people all the time back when I was on the street, I would much rather talk you down than tie you down. Like there's exact corollaries between that.
It's funny you mentioned that because I think it actually came through in the movie Code 3 a little bit with some of the context. There were people out there coaching patient experience who had no idea what the real world, experience was like in the emergency room, like with Rob Riggle's character, Dr. Serrano. I mean, there was a scene there by the vending machine when he talked about how it really was in the ER. And I think the movie showed you a side of the ambulance, the pre-hospital environment where it's tough in that environment to be positive sometimes. And when people would come in and coach patient experience without that context or without that credibility, like you said, they lost all the wind out of their sails and nobody listens to them. But when you get somebody who understands the context and has been there in the trenches, they get it, which I think you did a brilliant job in writing it and co-writing it, and the movie hit the nail on the head, I thought. So it was really good.
And thanks. And I do feel like I need to defend the film for a moment. Like the number one comment I get, or the multiple comments I get, are like, I've never worked with a doctor that's that big of a jerk. And it's like, look, some of my good friends are ER docs. The movie never set out to say that ER docs are bad, but to your point, I'm really glad you keyed in on that scene. Is like, we do our best to show like they're both burnt out. They're just burnt out from different things. And it's like, this is a struggle. So yeah.
I watched the movie with a non-clinical person, Jason, who my team knows. He's our COO here. We watched it in a hotel room together, and he asked me, he said, are ER doctors really like that? And I said, absolutely not. But we all think those things and we don't say it. I think those things.
Yeah, they're not that rude. They're not quite as rude as Riggle's character was, but I have had some doctors, be rude. And I think the biggest thing is that pre-hospital environment doesn't understand ER and in-hospital doesn't understand pre-hospital. And I kind of learned that when I got my RN and started working in the hospital. Again, it's kind of like going from ops to admin. You see things through a different lens. And I think that as a whole, people that are watching this, if we have nurses or paramedics, we have to understand that we kind of have different roles. And especially the in-hospital people need to understand and have a little bit more respect for the pre-hospital provider. And I think that's gotten a lot better over the years.
Yep.
I've been doing this 20 plus years, and it was way worse long ago. You'd have those old crotchety nurses that would yell at you for every little thing. It's gotten a lot better, but we need to understand the environments are a little bit different and have a little bit of grace for each other for what we have to deal with in our respective environments.
Well,
yeah, I would tell people all the time, or not all the time. I've been in other interviews and I've said, look, I'm the guy you want if you're dying in the next 30 minutes.
Yep.
I'm not the guy you want managing your diabetes, right? That's my skill set is here, and I know that, and that physicians or nursing is over here.
Yes.
Well, I think what we're talking about is part of the reason why I picked the clip that we picked. We'd like to show that right now, before we really get into the movie. And one of the reasons I think we picked this clip is that this scene, I think, is going to really resonate with our viewers.
Yes.
What's going on here?
Your patient is assuming room temperature. I declared her dead. The coroner is coming, and we are going to leave.
How do you know she's dead? What are her vitals?
You want to know her vitals? Well, if you must know, 0 pulse, 0/0 blood pressure, 0 respirations, like all zeros. Would you like to know her blood sugar?
She was just fine when I checked on her a few minutes ago.
A few minutes ago, really. Shake her hand. Go over and shake her hand. Do it.
I'm good.
Mike?
Look! Look! I'm dead.
Anybody who has ever treated a patient in a nursing home has been there to hear that nurse say, she was fine 1 minute ago.
I was going to say, every paramedic, EMT, pre-hospital provider, they were fine just a few minutes ago, probably got up and applauded in that moment. Absolutely brilliant writing, Patrick.
And
that
I
was
think,
great.
and if you see the movie, if you haven't seen it yet, there are 100 scenes like that where it's like, yes, that's it. That's what we see.
Patrick, I told you this the other day, but I just wanted to share the other day I was at work. I was at the state. I walked over to one of our stations to go talk to one of the guys. And as I'm walking into the station, I can hear this boo, 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 like this loud. And I'm like, what are they having, a rave in the day room? What is going on? And I walk into the day room, and they're all in there laughing and cracking up, and they're watching Code 3. And they're like, have you ever seen this movie? It's so funny. I said, as a matter of fact. So, yes, it was very, very well received from the people that I've talked to.
So
I'm really glad to hear that. That's kind of the funny thing is, you make this thing, and then 2.5, 3 years later, it comes out to the real world, and you're like, I wrote that joke. I hope it's still funny.
Still applicable? Yeah, right.
Take us through the process. I mean, how did you get to the point where you decided to write a screenplay?
It's an interesting question, and the reason I say it's interesting is this entire film was a homework assignment, and I can't stress that enough. So, as part of my undergraduate program, I had to take a creative. My undergrad's in public relations, so it's not in creative writing, but it's journalism adjacent and advertising adjacent. And one of the prereqs, or one of the courses I had to take, was a creative writing class. I didn't really want to take it. It was kind of like the university made me do it, so I was like, all right, fine. And early on in the semester, I got off a shift that was like 14 hours. That was supposed to be 12. Barely got myself, because I work night shift. So I was in class. Obviously, classes are from 10 to 4 or whatever. I barely get myself dressed and into class after this shift. And this professor just kind of kicks his feet up on the desk. And he just goes, if you want to tell a compelling story, write what you know. And it's a very cliche saying, but it's the first time I had ever heard it. And I just remember going, you want a story? I'll tell you a story. And I went home and just like screaming into the void. I was burnt out and just like smashing the keyboard. And it was a 36-page short story about EMS. It's different than the movie, but the bones are there. And that was it. I turned it in. I got an A-. I was happy with it. There was no dream of it becoming a movie. It was literally a homework assignment. As a laugh, I sent it to my family. And I said, you guys keep asking me for stories. You want to know what this is like? Here's the story. So that was it. Flash forward to like 4 or 5 years later, I've graduated and I'm visiting my brother in LA. And my brother he's working in the industry. My brother came up as a VFX producer. And he said, why don't you do what everybody does, which is write a script? And I just deadpan. I was like, I don't know anything about writing a script. Like my degrees are in business or in like trying to get your attention. And he's like, well, here's the computer program. Write it anyway. You have that short story. Write that into a script. And so over a week I did. And the first draft is trash. It's always garbage. But hey, it was a first draft. Kept rewriting it. And then what I've said on every interview is you have to be good and then you got to get lucky. And I know I'm a good writer. I mean, I've written for like EMS World and the Joint Commission and some other commercial aid places. So I've got a talent for writing, but there are thousands of writers that are more talented than I am. I just got really lucky. And the way I got lucky was that my brother and the director, Chris Leone, were coworkers. And so my brother approaches Chris and he's like, hey, Chris, do you want to read a script? And Chris is like, absolutely not, which is the right answer in LA because you're never more than 20 feet away from an unsolicited script in this town. But my brother is nothing if not determined and finally wore Chris down and said, it's about being a paramedic. And Chris is like, well, what's he know about that? And he's like, well, he was one for 12 years. So anyway, Chris read the first draft and he liked it enough to get involved. Obviously, that first draft is not what we shot. But then we had a meeting and he'd never graciously, at the beginning, he never asked me what was the worst thing I'd ever seen, but he said, the script is really interesting. Tell me something that I wouldn't know from an outsider. And I just started laughing. And I said, well, I know what brains smell like. And he almost fell out of his chair. And that was kind of like the starting gun of us working together. And then we worked on it part-time. Nobody got paid. This was a passion project for 12 years. And then we finally got it to a point that it was worthy of what you saw on screen. And so Chris is, like I said, he's a director and a writer, and he had representation. So his reps started throwing it around town, and it landed in Rain's lap. Rain read it and loved it. And he says this too. The first script was 180 pages long. And for context, most movie scripts are anywhere from 90 to 120. So there was a lot in this script. And so we ended up, over another year, we cut and cut and cut and cut. And then once Rain was happy with it, and all three of us were happy with it, he took it to Wayfair, which was the studio behind it, and they got financing. And so nothing happened for 15 years, 12 to 15 years. And then we were off. And then we shot for 28 days, and then that's it. So it's like this big fireworks and then nothing. And then now we came out on 9/11 is when we premiered this year. So we had this really cool thing, and now it's kind of it's out and living in the world.
Awesome. That's so cool. It's kind of like being in EMS, right? You sit around 90% of the time, followed by 10% of pure adrenaline. Yep.
Yeah, I tell everybody, EMS is 80% boredom, 20% sheer terror.
That's exactly right.
In the ER, I say 95% boredom and 5% sheer terror.
Sheer terror, yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Same thing.
Yeah, no, it was a great movie. Lots of different things, even some small things that, like you said, people that aren't in EMS or aren't in the medical field that wouldn't know that the EMS, the first responders, even nurses, ER staff are going to see those little things, those little pearls that you put in there, or what do you call it? Easter eggs, little Easter eggs you put in the script, and they'll pick up on those things. Genius. I love the quote, Randy's quote, the best health care that minimum wage can provide.
My favorite Easter egg about this, no one has seemed to have seen the sign, and to me it's blatantly obvious because we hung it. the very beginning, when he signs for his narcotics, when they're having the conversation about, when are we going to get a raise?
Yeah.
If you look over that lady's shoulder, there is a blue sign that literally says EMS, the best healthcare minimum wage can provide. And no one has caught it yet.
Oh, man.
Well, I watch it again.
Yeah, we're going to have to watch it again and look out for that.
But to that point, like the one thing I'm always incredibly grateful for is the absolute engagement of the actors and the crew and their investment. Because about day 3, I didn't expect everybody to read the full. I mean, obviously, I expect the cast to, but like the people that are doing hair and makeup.
Yeah.
By about day 3, the majority of them had read the entire script, and they were very invested in telling the story. And Chris and I aligned. Chris Leone, the director and co-writer, aligned very early on that we were going to be medically accurate, because almost all of the TV shows and movies that are made in our image and likeness are usually terrible on the clinical side.
They're terrible.
And that we would never make fun of the patient. So everything could be funny. The setups can be funny. Scenes can be zany. But if you're in crisis, we never made fun of the person calling 911. Because, I'm famous for saying I don't get to pick your emergency. Like, whether it's a hangnail or you can't breathe, like, my job is to help. You call me, I show up, I'm here to help.
Yeah, man.
But those were the two things. And I had a very unusual situation in Hollywood, because I was on set every day and we were training the actors on how to look right. Like you're saying, the little things, the non-rebreathers are filled. There's oxygen in the non-rebreathers. The bags the IV fluids are running. The monitor is accurate. Like,
the ET tube is actually hooked up to something. Yeah.
Yeah. The little things were hard to get right. And the thing that the actors would always remember is, like, I was famous for running around a set yelling gloves, because they'd take their gloves off between takes. And it's like, you're still taking care of a patient. Put your gloves back on.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Funny.
In our home, we can't watch any movie about a dog, because my daughter is afraid the dog will die and she won't enjoy it. And we also can't watch anything medically related, because Dad ruins the movie, because it's all.
My wife says the same thing. Shut up and enjoy the film.
Right. That's it. That's it.
I loved Mike and Randy's character, the camaraderie on the ambulance going back and forth. What was it that Mike said about, like, you ride, I drive, or something like that?
Yeah, I wheel, you heal.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
I wheel, you heal. That's what it was. Yeah, I thought that was I hadn't heard that before. That was a great quote.
But isn't it true,
we had a longer storyline where we were going to do a montage of Randy driving, and it's just terrible. Because there's really no such thing as an ambulance driver. Obviously I don't need to tell your audience that, right. But the whole idea is, like, we wanted to pay that joke off, where it's like just Randy just like basically almost getting into a wreck every time he's driving Code 3, but
that's funny.
It didn't make it, but that was the running joke behind that.
Well, one thing that did come through, I think, was the team. The team. I mean, they respected one another in their different roles. They're always together, working together. And I think you didn't make fun of the patients. You didn't make, everything was respectful that way. But I loved how you made fun of the citizens.
Or even the homeless guy with his shirt was a little too short at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, that guy, yeah.
That was pretty. Now, I heard or I read that, like, did all of the actors in the movie, like, I know Rain rode out with LAFD or somebody, didn't he do a ride out with some EMS people?
Yeah, so we did some pretty hefty training to the 3 leads, Amy, Rain, and Rel.
Okay.
Amy and Chris Leone too. So Chris had no experience in EMS. So Rain, Amy, and Chris got ride time with LA County Fire Station 14, which is South Central.
So that
came about through some connections that I had. I asked around and I was like, look, I only have one day. Tell me the busiest house in all of LA, because I'm only going to get them for like maybe 8 hours. So I need them crushing calls. That's all I care about. And they just told me, they were like, you got to talk to Station 14, which again is South Central. So I drove over to South Central, made friends with the captain who never met me before. And I threw on my old fire department t-shirt. I'm like, look, I'm one of you. And I was like, look, I have the weirdest request you're ever going to hear that totally fits LA. I got 3 actors and a director that need to hang out with you guys. And after he kind of looked at me cross-eyed, we talked for a little bit. He's like, okay, like these are the days. And so we got them to come in and they ran. I mean, they were observing. They weren't running, but they were observing real 911 calls in South Central. And then we also had them for another couple of days where we had them at just the ambulance company. So Lifeline's a real ambulance company in LA, and they were absolutely fabulous partners. I couldn't have asked for better partners, from equipment to all the stuff, their training, their training room, all of it. And the first day that they showed up for training, I said, they start gravitating towards all the toys, right? The monitor, the laryngoscopes, all the dummies and the moulage and stuff that's out. And I go, no. Get in the back of the truck. And they were like, what are we doing? So I threw them in the back of the truck. I said, don't put your seatbelt on. I go, there's the bar. I go, this is all you get. And we drove them around downtown LA kind of threw them around. And they're like, how do you guys do this? And I was like, cool. So now because obviously for anybody who doesn't know Hollywood movie magic, when they're actually treating people in the back, we're obviously not driving. It's a soundstage. I was like, but this is the stuff. This is what you got to feel like. The truck is moving down the street. And then we got them all healthcare provider CPR certified. They all got cards, so they had to learn how to BVM. They had to learn how to do CPR, because my cross to bear is like CPR is going to be done right in this movie. Like, I hate bad CPR because people will do it. Yeah, or they're on the bed. Yeah, it's just terrible. Because people will imitate what they see on TV or on screen. And so if anybody watches this movie and has to do CPR and they saw it done right once, like, I'm happy, and hopefully we can make an impact somewhere down the line.
Not Rainn Wilson in The Office doing CPR. Rainn Wilson in Code 3 doing CPR. just to set the standard here.
But yeah, we did that, and then we trained. I mean, obviously we weren't going to take them through the entire paramedic curricula, but basically the stuff that was tailored to the set or to the script. So we taught them how to intubate. We taught them how to do CPR. We taught them how to splint. We taught them how to backboard. The stretcher operations was really kind of the funnier bit, because to them it was like trying to wrestle a raccoon. Like, they couldn't figure it out. We were like, anything that's colored red can move. And they're like, what? And they're pushing the buttons. So that was a lot of fun. And, the monitor, but they were all invested. They all wanted to make it look right. And the funniest part, the thing that the biggest realization for me, having done the clinical work, is, like, if you ever read a script, I'm sure lots of people have seen it, like, the dialogue's always down the middle, and then to the left are what's called the actions. So, you tell the actor, like, you're going to hold a bottle in your hand, or you're going to walk to this room, whatever. And those are usually like 3 to 4 sentences. Mine were like a page long, because I was writing them like a clinician. I was like, you're gonna intubate, and then you're gonna listen for lung sounds. You're gonna do that, and like, we had to trim all of that out. That's why this first script was like 180 pages. And they were telling me, like, we're not trying to be paramedics. Write it down like a dance. And so the baseball scene, Amy's writing on a notepad. Well, if you could see the notepad, it literally says, okay, when this happens, put your right hand here, put your left hand.
That's awesome.
Notes for the script.
It was way more choreography, but they were very interested. They were very invested, and I couldn't have asked for better partners. I thought they were fantastic to work with.
Matt, Patrick, do you guys have a favorite scene? I guess maybe we should end with you, Patrick, because you're the star of the show here. My favorite scene was the vomiting scene in the ambulance. I couldn't stop laughing out loud after the Narcan and vomiting on the new guy. That was hilarious. That was my favorite scene. Matt, what was your favorite scene?
As an FTO and as a guy that leads our FTO program in my department, I really appreciated how you tied in Rainn's character and Jessica's character, and how he was teaching her as a student, how they would go on calls and he was in the moment teaching her, hey, how do you do a proper assessment and all, and it was all very accurate. The way that he was doing it, the verbiage he was using, it was all very accurate in how an FTO trains a new EMT or a new paramedic in the field. I really appreciated, as you stated earlier, most of the times these shows are wildly inaccurate on what happens in the real world. And I thought that part of it, even though it was Hollywood dramatized, it was still pretty accurate on, hey, how do you do a proper assessment? Here's a patient. This is what you're here to do, is to learn. So let's practice some things. So I really liked that interaction between the two of them. And I loved, and I don't want to spoil it, for those who are watching or listening that have not seen the movie, go see the movie. I'm not going to spoil it, but I love the little twist at the end.
Yeah, the twist was great.
Was a great little twist at the end. So make sure you go see it.
To write.
That was great. Very great writing.
And just to take it in reverse, so the Narcan scene, we intentionally show them hitting a pothole. And everybody kept asking, well, why? Why is that the important thing? And I was like, if you want the vomit payoff, you have to do it this way. Yeah. And they're like, well, why wouldn't you just give it fast anyway? And I'm like, because that's, like, I don't have the time, or you don't care about the pathophysiology about this. Yeah. Just trust me when I tell you, like, you have to show this. You have to show him really slamming it, and he can't be doing it on purpose, or else he's just an asshole. And that's what we're doing. Yes. And then to your part about the motorcycle scene, that aha moment was something that was born from a conversation I had with Chris, because that was a call I ran back in the day, and he asked the same question. He goes, why both eyes? And it's like, that whole explanation is why that scene exists. But for me, my favorite scene is the really quiet one at the end, or towards the end, when you are inside the truck and they turn the lights on and you're watching it bounce off the city as if you're in the cab, and you watch it bounce off of them. Like, to me, that's the scene that I always get attached to. That's the one that I love the most from a visual perspective. But
You know, one of the themes from the movie that I resonated with the most, because I'm like you, I'm a nocturnist. For a decade of my life, I worked nights in the ER, and I got pretty burned out. And during COVID, it got bad. And I really, really appreciated the way you wrote Rain's character, I guess Randy's character, where he was so burned out and so wanting out, but there's no way out, it seemed, and he was so cynical and negative, but he was a dynamic character, and he changed. And at the end, when I don't want to give too many things away, but the way his character changed, and the way he saw his job for what it really was, and he kind of experienced that other stuff and came back full circle. To me, as an ER doc who's kind of gone through a little bit of a process like that, really resonated with me. And I think that, there's a lot of funny stuff in the movie, but as an ER doctor who felt like Dr. Serrano many times, saying things under my mask I wouldn't want my patients to hear, I really, the movie almost seemed cathartic to me. It was really special. Very, very cool.
Well, and
I'm honored to hear that. That's part of it. Like, again, like the original starting point, I was really burnt out, and I had the fortune, I guess, to get out at the right time. I mean, after grad school, I started being able to do stuff outside of EMS, which was the right path. But I've been very open about it. Like, the only way I got back to normal was through therapy, and therapy is a great thing, kids. Like, I never struggled drug addiction or alcoholism or suicidality. Very lucky. Doesn't make me better, stronger than anybody else. I just was fortunate. But like, I had people that were like, we don't like being around you because you're just a lot right now. And so I think therapy should be mandatory, to be frank, to anybody who's done the job for more than 5 years, and not in the like, you're a broken human, but like, especially at night, it gets very insular because normal humans are up during the daylight, and like, especially after a year of night shift, like the only people that you can hang out with really are other night shifters, because you are wide awake at 2 a.m. and your neighbor is snoring. Like, they are not going to want to chill out or go to a barbecue.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's one of those things where I tell some of the new people that I've met, I'm like, I love night shift. I loved EMS. I loved every minute of it. But you've got to make friends outside of medicine so that way you can still stay normal.
Yep. You've said it well. And you said it well in the movie. Yeah. Really profound to me, because I'm with you, struggled mightily with my own struggle with
demons.
Demons, I don't know. It's just, like you, I've never had a drug addiction. All these things, it was really I think something changed in my personality working night shift for a decade. And my wife noticed it, my family noticed it. And when I got out of emergency medicine, I'm still PRN, I still have my hand in it, but I'm not a night guy anymore. My mom said something to me that was profound this year. She said, Erik's back. And I like, oh gosh, I've heard that from multiple people now.
I mean, the demons are real. Like anybody who's done this job for a significant period of time, like I always talk, or I don't always talk, but you always run into the people that think they're the Marlboro man, right? Like, it doesn't affect me. Like it does. By you telling me it doesn't affect me tells me that you're closed off. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where I remember I'll just share this. Like I used to say like, I don't have emotions. And the therapist I was seeing at the time was like, that's not normal. I was just like, what?
You're not a sociopath. You have emotions.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry. I just have to say that I've never heard anybody say that. And I said the exact same thing to my therapist. Her name's Natalie. And I told her that. It's like I said, I almost feel like a giant callus and I can't feel these emotions. I should be crying right now, and I'm not. It's something I'm going to live with the rest of my life, I guess. But it's nice to hear somebody else say that.
We have a therapist.
I remember somebody in the family died, and I was just like, "Well, that sucks. I'm hungry," and they were like, "What?"
I know. I know.
Only first responders will do that.
This kid
eat after death.
No, it's true. Like I'll be resuscitating a 9-day-old kid in the middle of the night. And it's like, guys, I got to get a Diet Coke. I'll be back. It's like, these aren't normal responses to life's tragedies. This is not normal.
Well, that's a protection mechanism that we put up, right, to do the job because we have to kind of have that to be able to operate in these conditions. But I was going to say, Dr. T, our good friend who's a therapist and runs a huge organization here in the Dallas area, she first came to our fire department. We talked about this in our mental health podcast. And one of the things that she said that just resonated with me was that the average person sees about 3 to 4 traumatic events in their lifetime. And she said the average first responder sees like 900 to 1,000 in their lifetime. Oh, wow. And so, and there's a lot of other things about how long, how many hours it takes to get over once you see a traumatic event. And based on our schedules, we didn't have enough recovery time before we were right back at it, experience another traumatic event. And then you start to build that up and it has a cumulative effect over an 18-year career like Randy had. And all of a sudden you hate everybody on the planet and you just, don't want to talk to anybody. And
that one scene when Rain was like, F you. I mean, just it was, I'm not going to swear on our podcast, but those are the things you think about sometimes when you're you've got your limit, you're fed up, and we don't talk about it enough. And I think
that was the most cathartic scene to write.
I
bet. Yeah. Something you've wanted to say for 12 years. You finally got to say it publicly.
You reach that moment and you're just like, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's what it is, too. What the movie did for me, and I think for anybody who sees it, who's been involved in the pre-hospital environment somehow, is that this created an environment where you're saying things that we feel and think that we've never said before. Yeah. And it's almost like therapy a little bit to me. It was so fun. And it did something. When you finish watching the movie, it's like a big deep breath.
Yeah.
It was good.
Well, and it shows the EMS, the private EMS provider. We were talking about this right before we started today. That most police officers working for a city or working for a state agency or something, they get compensated fairly well. Firefighters working for a city or a county or something like that, they get compensated fairly well. Private EMS workers, it is criminal what they get paid for the amount of responsibility they have. It is.
The most I ever got paid was $17.32 an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy, and that's why a lot of guys go to the fire side because they want to make more money. Even though they love EMS, they want to make more money. And I think your script, your movie, did an excellent job of showing, I think, kind of the unsung heroes of first responders, because the cops and the firemen get all the glory stuff, right? But $17 an hour paramedic is saving lives every day on the streets of LA, and nobody's putting his face on the news. So I think I think the movie did an excellent job kind of praising the private EMS workers specifically on the job that they do.
Patrick, you're about to say something. We interrupted you. What were you going to say?
Oh, just going back to what you guys were talking about before. I've said this before. Is I think that the dark humor that's proliferated in public safety is necessary. I think in small doses, it is not just appropriate; it's necessary. With the giant caveat being, when it becomes your only personality trait, you have a problem. Yeah. Like, the story I've told before is back when I was on the fire department, I wasn't quite a paramedic yet. I was an EMT. I think it was an intermediate back in the day. But somebody got smashed by a train. And so we got there. There was obviously nothing we're going to do. We had to wait till the coroner came up. And anyway, we get back to the firehouse, and there's 5 guys on that truck. And as soon as the garage doors were closing, a buddy of mine just ran over to me, just kind of tagged me. He goes, "Tag, you're it." And like these 5 grown adult ass men are running around the fire department playing tag. And from anybody else's perspective, it would be like, this is what weird backwards world are we in? And it was like, I'll never forget that because it helped, we saw something really bad and we played tag afterwards. And it's like, I don't know why, but it was kind of like the spoonful of sugar kind of thing. It helped.
I got a story like that in the ER. We had just seen a horrific trauma, level 1 trauma type of thing, and we're getting cleaned up, house cleaning. The housekeeper folks, environmental services, I think they call it, are in that trauma bay mopping up the blood. We decided to have wheelchair races. So we pulled out the wheelchairs, and my night crew and I made a mini Olympics.
Like a track.
And then we had patients in the ER, but we said you kind of have to do that though. You kind of have to not take yourself too seriously, and you got to be ready because another trauma could be right there on its way. So you never know. I think there's something, actually right now, Patrick, I'd love to tell you more about it. Maybe this isn't the right time, but we're preparing a storyline for a documentary we're involved in. And the purpose of this documentary is to celebrate first responders. And a lot of
awesome.
A lot of what to do more of that. Well, see, a lot of what I want to say, you said in the movie, but it's not appropriate to really talk about it there. But you're able to bring that out. Yeah. Like, this is really what we think, and this is what it's like. And I think it was a different kind of a celebration that you guys built with this movie, elevating the heroism and what they do for minimal money and the impact they have on society.
Calling out nursing home nurses. I'm sorry. It just came. I'm sorry.
It's true.
Just kidding, nursing home nurses. We love you.
Even the citizens who complain about them parking bad and saying stupid stuff. Yeah. It's nice to hear somebody tell them off,
Yes.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is I've talked to some leaders in different. In fact, I'm going to Colorado tomorrow, and I'm going to say this to them too. It's like, if you're a leader in any EMS service and you walk out amongst your employee parking lot and you see more than 20% cars have Uber and Lyft stickers on them, you're not paying enough. Yeah. Now there are significant issues with reimbursement that your audience may or may not care about. We talk about CMS legislation and everything else. But the short answer is we got to fix it. I don't pretend to know all the nuances around it. But if your employees are working 2 or 3 jobs and they went to paramedic school and they got all of the credentials that everybody on this podcast know you have to have and keep current, and then on the side they're driving Uber or Lyft, like there's something functionally broken there. And I was at USC last week talking to students, and I just said, like, no one with a straight face can tell me that the U.S. healthcare system is good. Like, it's broken, and I've worked on both sides of it. I've done some policy work. I've even worked for the state. We've got a chicken wire and duct tape system that I believe needs to be remade. Now, how we do that, I don't claim to have all the brain power to be able to do that, but there are significant gaps in the way that U.S. healthcare is delivered and reimbursed.
Well, I can I've spoken on this multiple times, and I could talk about this. This will be our second most boring podcast, but
I'll let you two. We'll have you back, and I'll have you two nerd out on patient satisfaction scores.
But I will say this though, and actually in the EMS world last year I spoke on this, is that the pre-hospital providers that we're talking about right now, us, the first responders, I believe wholeheartedly is the answer to fix some of the biggest things that are broken in our healthcare system. We are overutilizing the healthcare system, but we have a pre-hospital system that's underappreciated, that's only incentivized to transport to the ER. ET3 almost solves some of that, but by differentiating the care that we can deliver and by really maximizing the care potential that a first responder could have, we could do the healthcare system.
Top of scope.
Say it again?
Let them work top of scope.
Yes, exactly.
You can start a community paramedicine program and partner with a hospital to do ongoing care of your patients that you know are high risk, high utilization.
Yep.
There are paths forward. It's just, number one, the thorny thing is figuring out the reimbursement. You'd have to partner with a hospital that somehow creates a reimbursement structure for that to decrease ER runs. But and again, I don't want to bore your audience to tears, but to your point, Doc, there are ways to at least make meaningful inroads in. But part of that is also the thing I always hated the most is anytime you run into a mother may I system. If you're trained at this level, let me work at this level. Give me the drugs, give me the permission. When I worked at Johns Hopkins critical care team, that was a light year above what I thought I could do. And I mean, some of the most significant, most interesting, clinically bizarre but complex medical cases I've ever dealt with in my life. But talk about working at top of scope. I was with a CCT nurse, and we were just, she'd ask for something, and it was okay, I guess we're doing this.
Yeah. There's a lot of care potential that we have not maximized. We haven't utilized our first responders like we could. And I actually think it would decrease stress if we recognize their capabilities and train them properly.
And compensated them appropriately.
I really believe that wholeheartedly. I think that's a lot of that's actually why we built this business, was really to train people appropriately. There's so much we could talk about with that. But, as a question to you, Patrick, actually, so we do a lot of things that are very creative to be able to tailor education to first responders. You seem like you're a pretty creative guy, writing scripts and stories. I don't know. What other creative things do you do outside of writing?
I'm an educator at heart. It took me a long time to realize that. I've loved all of my careers, but one of the things I really enjoy doing is kind of the training and education piece and making. When I was doing the patient experience stuff, I'd always say my job is to make data tell a story. And there was some foreshadowing there, I guess, with the movie. But yeah, making complex stuff easier to understand, easier to digest, and making sure that there is a comprehension at the end is something that I'm personally passionate about. I mean, I'm still, if you're asking, on the Hollywood side, I've got some other stuff written. We're pitching some other stuff that we're hoping to get up and off the ground. Some of it's EMS related, some of it's not. But I would love to live in make believe for the rest of my life, and or do something meaningful in the training and education space. In fact, I was just recently looking at trying to see if I could become an adjunct professor with a master's degree. So that's the kind of stuff that I really like.
Oh, very cool. Well, sounds like you're the kind of guy we need to hire here.
Well, and I also think we need to start Code 3 the series. And that we need to have
hey, if enough people get interested in it, that would be I would love nothing more than to fill your TV with funny stories and continuing storylines.
Come on, Netflix, Peacock, somebody. Sign this guy up and start a series.
I actually started writing a book that it's, long story short, a book basically has got ER stories in it. ER from the ER, of course, my perspective, and some of the craziest situations that patients get themselves into. And I've married each story with kind of a quick lesson on the physiology of that part of the body that was injured and how amazing our human machine is. It's It's really phenomenal to think about how our bodies have been engineered in such amazing ways. I call it the human machine. And to parlay that into some crazy ER story where a guy gets bit in the eye with a albino Burmese python. I mean, it's a fun interplay.
That's interesting. Yeah, you should totally write that book.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm assuming you guys know who Rob Lawrence is, right? The director of the California Animal Association. I thought he was at Expo. Anyway, Rob is a British man. He's brilliant. He's been a buddy of mine for a long time. But he's famous for saying, it's either carpentry, plumbing, electricity, or electricity. Like, those are the three big things.
That's true.
So true.
Well, that's what we said in our cardiovascular lecture. Yep. It's really about pumping hoses.
Yeah, we teach a lot of firefighters, and so we relate a lot of stuff. So when we did our cardiovascular lecture, we were out with a fire truck talking about the pumps, the hoses. Same idea. So next time we're gonna have to. We got tased.
We got tased for our EKG lecture, 50,000 volts. I intubate myself.
Yeah.
Wrestled alligators.
Hot chip challenge.
Swam with great white sharks to talk about hemorrhage. That's the way we teach. So
that sounds incredible. I'm not going to get tased. Sorry. I don't care how many likes you get, and I'm not eating that hot chip.
That was better than the hot chip challenge, I'll tell you that.
It was.
Shorter.
I will not do that. I promise you that I'm not that man. But I'll go scuba diving with you any day. Let's go.
Well, I think I told you about Dr. Lowe out there at Long Beach where you live. He joined us on our show, and it was a ton of fun to work with him on our hemorrhage show. We do CEs, Patrick, but it's really more of a show. People actually watch our stuff. They don't just click play and walk away. They really actually watch it, and that's why we're like a bunch of junior hires here playing around and making learning fun. It sounds like
that's what it's all about. Like anytime you drone on, no one pays attention, right? Like, let's talk about the T wave let's talk about depolarization. Why? Salt's on the potato. Tastes like French fries. There's your chemistry lesson. Like, let's go.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Well, Patrick, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you'd like to tell our viewers or share as we close out?
Yes, I've said this in every single interview I've done for this film, and anytime I can, because I think it's too important. For anybody who's watching, thank you for what you do, especially if you're still doing the job right now. I don't. I still have my credential, but I don't use it. But what you do matters, and it's important, and I know it's hard, and sometimes it's very unfulfilling. So if you haven't heard it today, you're going to hear it from me today. Thank you for what you do. I think it's incredibly important. I'm grateful. I don't care where you work. I don't care what it is that you do. If you're touching a patient, it matters, and it's going to make a difference in their life and hopefully yours too. So thank you for what you do.
That's great.
Well, thank you, Patrick, for writing the movie, co-authoring, creating, having the brain behind the story, the movie. It was a great movie, entertaining, educational, Absolutely. All those things. And thank you for being on our podcast. Really enjoyed it.
Cathartic.
I'll come back as many times as you'll have me.
Well, don't say that, because we'll have you back.
We would love to have you back. Thank you, Patrick. You've been great. What a pleasure it is to have you on our show.
Thank you guys for watching. And Patrick, we kind of have a little closeout thing that we do. We'll see you on the next one.
Be safe out there.
Be safe.
Thank you for listening to EMS, the Erik and Matt Show.